Hello and welcome to SusyBLiving's What I Am Sowing in July video here on YouTube. Welcome back to my channel and let's talk about July. So July is a kind of relatively easy month for sowing. It's not frenetic like it was earlier in the year and you know, I'm still sowing quite a few things. But we then ramp it up in August, September. That's when we start to get busy for Christmas. So let's just talk about what you could sow now in July. My sowing videos are a little bit different to normal sowing videos because I try and coincide with the days, the moon phase days that I'm going to sow on. So for those of you who are interested in that, that information is going to come up. And for those of you who aren't, it makes no difference whatsoever. So you can still be interested in what I'm going to be sowing, just you can sow it at any time of the month in July. So let's start. Okay, so my first sort of sowing is going to happen this coming weekend, which is Sunday the 7th and Monday the 8th. I'm just looking down. I've got two bits of information down here of on my iPad and on my phone of what I am sowing and when. So if I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at. So Sunday the 7th and Monday the 8th of July are both leaves days. So that's where I start sowing. If I'm not sowing on any other day, like I said to you, it doesn't matter. You can sow these leaves on other days if you want to. This is what I'm doing on my moon phase days. So the first thing I'm going to be sowing is some extra herbs. Every single leaves day that comes up, or every month, so once a month, I will sow extra herbs. So I will sow things like dill, I'll sow things like coriander as well. And this month in particular, I'm going to be sowing curly parsley. Up until now, I've been sowing flat leaf parsley. I seem to have enough of that at the moment, but I don't have enough curly parsley. So I'm going to be sowing curly parsley. There is a variety that I particularly like, and I've grown it quite a lot. And it is called, if I can find the packet here, there it is, it's stuck in there. It's called Afrodite. It's by Mr. Fothergill's, and I'll just show you the packet here. So Afrodite is the name of this curly parsley. It doesn't really matter what variety of curly parsley you use, but this one in particular is great for cooler weather. So this parsley, I am going to be sowing. I'll put a couple out in my kitchen garden, but most of them are going to go in pots, and I'll keep the pots outside and then I can bring them indoors, you see. So I can bring them inside this big greenhouse and also in my other emerald greenhouse as well. And that's what I do with my curly parsley at this time of year. So the next thing, the other thing that you could also sow is chives. So keep up to date with chives as well. So the next thing I'm going to sow on Leaves Day is I'm going to sow another batch of chard. I ummed and ahed over which variety I would choose because I've already sown 4 different varieties of chard, and the one that I particularly like, that I've always liked, Barese, I have enough of that. So I thought, let's go for colour instead. So I am going to sow some Rhubarb Chard, and that is the red one. And the other thing I'm going to sow a little bit more of, because I used it a lot this year, is Perpetual Spinach, or spinach beet, they call it. And so that's the other thing that I am going to sow as well. That is a great spinach. It's not true spinach, but it is related to the chard family. The leaves are a little bit tougher than true spinach. True spinach is really soft, the leaf on true spinach. But the great thing about perpetual spinach is, as the name suggests, you just keep cutting it and it keeps coming again. And I finished my perpetual spinach that I grew last summer into autumn and winter. I finished it in end of May, excuse me, end of May, beginning of June. So that is how wonderful this spinach is. So, you know, again, I'm going to grow quite a bit of that. I've already got one batch on the go, and I'm going to put in the next batch as well. All right, next. So now talking about true spinach, in the garden here, I have got some wonderful spinach that seems to be quite incredible because it is a very, very slow bolter. It's called Santa Cruz and it's an F1, and I did sow it just to see what would happen, and I sowed it in March, and I'm still cutting from it. In fact, tonight is probably the last, second to last harvest I'm going to get, because I'm going to use it tonight in our dinner. But it is absolutely wonderful. So I am going to now sow another batch and see if I can get this going now in the summer, in the heat. Well, there is no heat. Today there's definitely no heat. And this week there's not going to be any heat either. So if we have a summer like this, then the spinach is going to do really well. So that's going to go in as well. I'm going to sow that. That's my next thing to sow. Yeah, okay, so that is Sunday and Monday. Then on Tuesday the 9th and Wednesday the 10th of July, they're both fruits days. Okay, let's talk about tomatoes. So at the moment, I have got two types of what they call determinate tomatoes, which are the bush variety tomatoes in pots. So, I've got yellow, orange, these orange buckets here. And they're doing really well. So I've got a few here in the greenhouse, but most of them are actually outside. The other thing I've got is I have all my grafted tomatoes around me here in the auto pots, and I've got a few extra just cooking tomatoes. So that's great. But I would like some, because I know that these tomatoes that I've got here are going to be finished probably end of August, September. So I would like to grow some more tomatoes to see me through to the end of the year. And I fathomed that the best thing would be another determinate tomato, so another bush tomato. The one I really like and that I grow all the time for flavour is a tumbler. So there are so many different tumbler tomatoes you can get, but I like your straightforward Tumbler F1 that doesn't have a name or anything like that. I'm just trying to think of where did I just get my last lot of seeds from. I think it was King's Seeds, actually. When I find out, I'll put a link at the bottom of where I got my tumbler tomatoes from. Oh no, it wasn't from King's Seed, it was from Just Seed, because I just did an order from Just Seed and I threw some tumbler tomatoes in there as well. And tumbler tomatoes are great because you can grow them in hanging baskets, you can grow them in pots, you can grow them in the garden, you can grow them anywhere and they don't get big. So I'm going to put in a few of those on Tuesday and Wednesday. Okay, let's go ahead now. So when I look forward here to the next sowing of what I'm going to do, it will be the 13th and the 14th of July are roots days, and I'm going to sow some more carrots. So I've got lots and lots of carrots on the go at the moment, and I have troughs of carrots. I've got big containers of carrots. I've got carrots in the kitchen garden as well, but you can never have too many carrots. So I am going to put in some carrots that like the cooler weather and like to get a frost on them, and they are Napoli. I grow Napoli every single year and I grow it as the cool carrot. So I'm going to do some troughs or maybe some big containers of Napoli carrots. Again, it's an F1 and it is a wonderful carrot. So that is that. Right, let's talk about more leaves that I'm going to sow. So kind of mid-month, which is the 17th, 18th and of July, they're all leaves days on the moon phase calendar. So I'm going to do my next batch of lettuce. I've got lettuce on the go every single month. It's either cut and come lettuce or it's head lettuce. And I am going to do some more head lettuce, and I'll also do some more cut and come in my veggie pod. So I am going to do the mix that I'm going to do in my veggie pod is a Franchi seed mix, and it is the primavera, which is the primavera spring mix. So I'm going to put that in my veggie pod. The head lettuce that I am going to sow is my favorite in the summer, which is Canasta. That is going in. I'm going to do some Navara, which again is another favorite. It's a favorite oak leaf of mine. And I am going to do some Grenoble as well, because I really love this lettuce. So that is going in as well. So they're my lettuce that I'm going to sow. The other thing I'm going to put in for leaves is my next batch of spring onions or salad onions. I have a lot, and I swore 2 years ago that I would never be without spring onions or salad onions. And so far so good, which is great. So now I'm going to start turning over to my cooler variety spring onion, which is actually my favorite variety spring onion. This is a bunching onion, not a bulbing onion, and it's called Guardsman. And I absolutely love this spring onion. My seeds are from moles, and that's because I grow a lot of them. And let me just have a look how many I've got in here. 2,500 seeds in there. So that is what I am going to be doing for another leaf as well. Right, so let's continue with leaves. On the 25th and the 26th and 27th, I'm going to be busy on those days. I am going to sow a batch of Asian greens. I have actually missed them, and it's funny because in the summer I cook a lot of Asian food, so it's a bit weird that I don't grow Asian greens in the summer. So I'm going to put some in, and whether they're dealing with flea beetle, and funnily enough, I haven't seen a lot of flea beetle about in the garden. So maybe it's too cold, I don't know, but I'm going to try with some Asian greens. So the ones that I like, my favorite Asian greens that I grow all the time are choi. So this is a pak choi, and it is a big pak choi. It's great. You get a lot for your money. I'm going to do some Tatsoi as well, which I do all the time, and I'm going to do some red stem pak choi because of the colour, and it's just great, very delicious. Also, I need some spare kales. I've got lots of kale over at the allotment. I've got a few extras here that are going to go in, but I just need a few spares to tide me over towards the end of the summer into autumn. So I'm going to do I'm going to do the curly kale called Reflex. It's an F1, and I'm going to do Pentland Brigg because it's my favourite kale, one of my favourite kales actually. So I'm going to sow a few of those. I'm also going to sow some spring cabbage as well. And the pointy variety spring cabbage is what I like. I like Offenham, which is very prominent here in the UK, and I also like Caraflex. So I'm going to do those as well. So they are my leaves on those particular days. And I am going to do an extra lettuce, which is my Riccia, which I forgot to put in earlier. So it doesn't really matter when you do lettuce, because I do lettuce all year round. Right, okay, so the 28th and the 29th of July are both fruits days again. So I am going to sow some more peas. I had potting peas in pots that I overwintered here in the greenhouse, and we ate all of those, and they were great, really, really lovely. And now my sugar snap peas and my mange tout is nearly finished. My sugar snap peas are still going quite strong, which is really good. So I am going to sow some more peas. And at this time of year, if you do want to sow peas, you need, especially here in the UK, because it is quite humid, you need to sow a pea that is mildew resistant. So the one that I find works for me is called Terrain. And it's a great pea. So I'll just put a few of those in as well. And then the last thing that I'm sowing, which is on the 30th and the 31st, not that, is, because it's Roots Day, is a turnip. So I'm going to do my favorite turnip, which is Tokyo Cross. It's an F1. It's the little white turnips. They are absolutely delicious, and they're very successful when you sow them now, and they get off to a really fast start, and then they can sit in the ground when it gets cooler. So that is my last thing, and that's it. So that is what I am sowing in July. So I hope that that has helped you with what you might be sowing in July as well. And I hope things are going well. If you do want to see the particular days again of when I'm sowing them, that you will see them every week when I bring out my moon phase days of what I'm sowing. So that's just to remind you, but this is just an overview. Alrighty, so thank you again for watching me on SusyBLiving, and a thumbs up would be great, or even better, subscribe, and we can grow along together. Alright, I'll see you later. Bye.